What up, folks? Damn, I'm excited. Jonah, welcome to the Mikey G and Web3 podcast. We have been having fire lineups, man. We've had DYLI on. We just had Logan. We just had this guy, Sander, who's doing... actually, I linked you up in Telegram. Sander,
just chat.
The commerce. Yeah, I hope you guys are chatting because you're doing similar things. But, dude, today is all about you. Welcome to the show. How you doing, brother?
I'm doing great. It's been a fun week, so
yeah, dude.
Looking forward to having a good time to keep moving.
What people don't know is Jonah and I have been talking for a hot minute. We've had multiple. I've had things come up. He's had things come up, but now we're here, and I'm really excited about it. Couple quick things about Mikey G, and then we're just going to get straight into Jonah and the world famous Mikey G3 question. So we have Yacht from Fugs coming on next week. Amazing human being. Really excited about that. I'm actually doubling down on content, people. You're going to see me in a ton of more spaces. I have the new space Top Unfiltered Mind with my OG Hate Beast homies, Christian and Mojito. I'm really deeply ingrained with what Pons is doing now with Grind Token. That is going to be... I just love his thought process on how he's handling the token. So I'm really excited for that. I got to shout out to B-Rock, man. OG Triple Media. We're going to set up some strategy calls, continue to figure out how to work together. He's just got a great mindset. And I really do think we're brothers from another mother. Like, our upbringing couldn't be more similar. And it was just shocking when we went through our life stories. Just a beautiful human being. Continue to surround myself with amazing people. And Jonah's the next person on the list, so I'm excited to get to it. Enough about me, man. The rest is about Jonah. So how we do it here always is just a nice little formal introduction, right? And so we're going to start with the fact that he was working, it's Nifty Labs, right? Is that what it was called?
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, so Nifty Labs, and I'm actually even interested in this. You said kind of you were working on like the background dev work of Goblintown. So like, how did that interaction work actually? Like what were you responsible for? Were you kind of the dev studio behind it? What did that look like?
Yeah, so Nifty Labs was a development studio that we launched in 2021. We actually did the Web3 work for a number of projects over the years, but we linked up really early with the Truth team. We actually did the Web3 dev for Illuminati, like everything that Truth has ever done. We are the Web3 arm of their organization. So we've done everything, not just Goblintown, but they're most famous for Goblintown. And
right.
Like, they just launched the really hard driving game, early access and all of that. So they're doing really cool stuff.
Love it.
So
Love it.
Bit more of a known name. Yeah.
Yeah. And so you're, and we'll get into this, but just to clarify, your background is more dev, or is it more it's like business management?
Business management. We'll get into it later, right?
Yeah.
But I was like on the law track, and then things changed.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm more of the business side. My co-founder Alex is just a cracked 10x dev, and we have a team underneath him. But he's the best developer I've ever met.
Amazing. All right, yeah. So we'll get into that later. In addition, lives in North Carolina, has got some beautiful dogs, is trying to work on a golf swing. By the way, man, when we meet up in real life, that will happen. We're definitely hitting the links. I love golf. My dream is that my little 21-month-old wants to learn how to surf, and we go surfing in the morning, followed by 18 holes of golf, and that will be my perfect day. So hopefully we'll be able to accomplish that, but I love golf. I got pretty good, so maybe we can help each other out on our golf swings, because it's the hardest thing in the world to learn. Would you agree it is the hardest thing in the world to learn?
I have not struggled with a lot of athletic endeavors, and golf is destroying me, but it's fine. I'm actually in a golf tech thing right now where they have like 30 cameras on you, and they analyze every aspect of your swing just to try to help me figure things out.
Oh, dude, there's this pretty cheap app. I'll find it. My buddy's using it. And it's the same thing. Like, it's AI records your swing. It puts it up against a pro swing so you can see what's wrong. And then it actually gives you, instead of like you trying to figure out what's going on, it actually gives you the breakdown of what's different. It's pretty solid, and it's helped me out a lot. So remind me, I will send that to you. So golfer, and then obviously co-founder of DYLI. Said it right? Co-founder of DYLI, home for creators and collectors. A lot of trading physical products. It's a really brilliant idea. And I remember when we first talked, I was like, it's awesome that Abstract already has a product and solution like this. But here's the fun part. Jonah has yet to reveal, he's got a very fun, almost maybe funny fact about himself that nobody knows. So what is it, man? Hit me.
So I'm a survivor of a dolphin attack.
What?
I was attacked by dolphins in a zoo in the Dominican Republic during a swim with the dolphins routine.
Oh,
it was insane.
God.
Like a little pod of them, just 4 of them beating the hell out of me.
What did that like? Do they open their mouth or are they just beating you with their nose?
So that's what's crazy is they were biting me, but their teeth are like little rubber nubs. They're not predators, right? They don't eat meat. And so I actually did rip my hand open, but it was because of their jaw strength and me trying to pull it out. And then actually they just slam you with their tails. So I was probably like 11 at the time, and it was devastating. Have not swam with the dolphins since. Not a fan of dolphins. But the funny thing is when they took me back and were like dumping iodine on me and all of that, there could have been, a language barrier or something, but the zoo director was like, "We're so sorry. This usually doesn't happen more than once a month." And then it's like, "Oh, okay. Was this the second time? Or you're surprised it happened again? Like, what is this?"
Little bit of a warning here, folks.
Yeah, outrageous.
That's
so
outrageous.
But it did. The happy ending is I was not really allowed to have video games growing up, and my reward for surviving was a PlayStation 2.
Oh
and
my!
It all went downhill from there.
See, we're gonna start this trend today. You know how there's always like viral tweets that go around like, "Would you do X?" or "Is it a monkey or a horde of horses?" We'll start that. Would you take a dolphin beating to get a PlayStation 2? I think I'd say no. I feel like that would scar me a little.
I'm sure I could have convinced them to get it for me some other way. I don't think that needed to be my first path.
Dude, that is one of the more interesting fun facts. I'm glad you're okay, and you're obviously doing very well. It's funny you bring that PlayStation 2 up, though, because at midnight, the Switch 2 releases, and I have had every console since the Nintendo, except for the Neo Geo and the Jaguar, which people probably don't even know were consoles. And I'm gonna wait in line for a Switch 2. Like it's now just part of my blood, right? Like I have to get the new console because I'm a console guy. I'm a 43, so I grew up before the internet was really a thing. Beautiful intro. And with that being said, man, we're already here. World famous Mike G and Web3 question. This is gonna be a beautiful conversation. I can already tell. How we like to do this is we break it down into chapters. Change it from episode to chapters. Little fact as to why I'm doing that. AI likes chapters better than episodes, and it's a very helpful automated workflow in the back end that I can say, like, give me some awesome clips for chapter 1 with Jonah so we can continue to promote your amazing content. So chapter 1 is your childhood. And when in your childhood, these are the things that I'm interested starting off with, and we'll go from there. Vivid memories, one like you just talked about. Parental figures or parents, what were their mantras? Or what were those, not skill sets, but things that kind of were inherently grained in you by watching whoever that was growing up? Were you a tinkerer? Did you like to play sports? We'll start there. Chapter 2 is more your schooling and then professional or entrepreneurship career. And in chapter 2, here's what I'm really, really interested in, because this is how we impact lives, like I was talking about in the beginning, Jonah, which is, what are your failures? What are these insights gained from the missteps? Because those are the opportunities for people to learn. And then chapter 3, obviously, your awesome Web3 journey. You have a really robust one. we'll get to what you're currently doing, and then we'll get to what the future looks like. So with that being said, man, let's start at chapter 1, childhood, wherever you feel comfortable starting. We'll go from there.
Yeah. Well, you heard probably the most traumatic aspect of my childhood already. But it's pretty funny in hindsight. But yeah, childhood was really rewarding for me. I was a big on fantasy, so there was an interesting sort of bit of being at odds with my father. Of like, I spent a lot of time outside to rack up my indoor hours to do whatever the heck I wanted inside. My father was amazing, is amazing. He still is a physician. And, you know, in terms of vivid memories, that something that that has stuck with me and that my wife and I still do is, even with his hours, we ate dinner together as a family almost every night, which was really nice. And so there was this strong sense of family and togetherness my entire life growing up. And that's something that we've sort of continued to maintain. No kids yet, but they're on the way soon, I'm sure. So that's really great. But yeah, the big thing for me was always like fantasy, avid reader, and eventually like just voracious video game player, but love that whole universe that came out of it.
So you already bring this up. I'm telling you, man, this is like 99%. Why is every founder I talk to a gamer?
I know why. And I actually saw an article, I think Loris wrote it a while ago about RuneScape. Like, this age was when the internet began, right? So we were pre-internet and post-internet, and pre-internet, the way you learned was really hands-on and physical, right? You kind of had to experience things firsthand. And as a child, you're not put in situations to experience a lot of economics firsthand, right? Maybe you make a lemonade stand or something when you're like 13, but like that doesn't just naturally happen in your youth. Video games made that real, and the internet made MMORPGs real. And all of a sudden, at any age, you could be thrust into a fully active economy as a major participant. And so specifically us, gamers who began gaming at the start, like I remember needing like dial-up, like, hey dad, no one can call because I'm going to go play RuneScape, right? Like we were the first people to really start that. And so we in particular got this education that no one before us got at that age. Now, you know, everyone plays video games. Video games are cool. People are professional gamers. Like it's a whole different world. And so you'll find that, you know, everyone has that skill, like is building that skill set earlier and earlier now. But for us and this generation of people, gamers were just got a leg up of building those muscles way earlier in life. The scams, just all of it.
Yeah, and I think Web3 is part of that manifestation, and I've heard that a lot. This is another thing. It's World of Warcraft, RuneScape, and Counter-Strike, because they all had their, you know, secondary economies as well. RuneScape is probably the number one, but that perfectly makes sense. You said another thing though, what I think is really interesting, and you know, this comes in many forms and fashion, and it is I have talked to people that have grown up in a hut with dirt water and barely clean water and a dirt floor. And it creates this sense of grit and drive that has really made them successful. But then there's the other side, that what you said, which is like you grew up in a really loving household and you had the opportunity to explore and to take chances, be creative. So talk to me about the impact of that upbringing, of like what you felt it enabled you to do and start growing as a little person in the sense at that time.
Totally. Yeah. And, you know, maybe at the time I wasn't very appreciative of all of the opportunities I was given.
Sure. Again, this is always reflective, right?
Right. My parents were really nurturing, and they really kind of wanted me to discover my passions. And so they at one point I even did like, I was fencing for 3 months. Like, do I fence? No, turns out I did not like fencing. I was really young. I'm sure this like 16-year-old girl like jabbed me in the shoulder, and I was like, yeah, I'm done. This is terrible. But I was put through the ringer of discovery for sure. My parents wanted me to have the chance to experience things and find out what I cared about. Like as I said, to probably to their detriment, I liked books and games a little bit more than I enjoyed some of those outdoor activities. I did kind of find my athleticism in high school, but prior to that, it was a bit of a tougher road for my dad. My dad is a extreme athlete. It makes no sense at his age what he does, but he's a kite surfer. Like he loves just extreme sports, and he did everything he could. I was a kite surfer for a month or two. Didn't like it. So there was my entire childhood was trying things and experimenting and just figuring out what I like to do, and that was great.
Yeah, and this is a huge insight, right? This comes up time and time again. So for you, reflecting on what did that constant experimentation do for you? Because I think this is a even somebody in their 30s or 40s that is still struggling. I think experimentation is a huge thing. So from your perspective, reflecting back on that, what do you think that experience did for you?
I think there's actually a couple of angles to that. Now, thinking back, right? First and foremost, I had to meet new people that had very different interests all the time. Like when I did fencing, I had to like meet fencers, right? And I had to spend time with fencers. And so there's a sort of adaptability of making sure that you can understand the room you're in, fit in, and try to make friends in this environment, right? Obviously I went to like Boy Scout camps and was with all these outdoorsy kids. And so there's this sort of realm of like constantly like sort of switching the environment you're in just to sort of see if it's an environment you like. So there's probably a bit of an adaptability angle to all of that.
For sure.
There's also just sort of an experience side of it of just like, I know like some of those fencing forms. I know like what's going on I call it a soccer pitch, but the football pitch, whatever. Like just doing all these things, right? It sort of gives you a bit of comfortability in talking about and even engaging with a lot of topics that a lot of people otherwise might not have been exposed to. But
dude,
yeah,
amazing insight. And so here's one of the things I'd love your opinion on. This is what I actually heard was you got really comfortable with trying out new things and failing. But also, I think the thing that comes up time and time again, and people approach me and they're like, Mikey, like you seem so passionate about what you do. How did you get there? And my answer, or someone that's like, I'm not good at anything. My answer, and Gary Vee and a lot of other people will say this too, is like, you just have not tried enough things. And so you're doing this at a very early age. Do you agree with that sentiment? Is there anything to layer on for somebody that is like, I'm not good at anything?
I agree with it, but I would also caveat that like failing still sucks. I do not like to fail. Like an ability to fail and comfortability with failing is not the same as being like, failing's no big deal. I fail all the time. Like, no, I hate failing. If failing, it fires me up and there's a lot of emotion behind it. It's not like I'm numb to it. So I would say like, just because you're exposed to it a lot, and I did fail quite a bit. It's true. Keeping it up. I've never thought about that in my entire life.
Hold on. You just started like getting really muffled, and I couldn't hear half of what you just said.
Am I still muffled?
No, now you're better. I'm not sure what was different.
Yeah, nothing. Interesting.
I mean, you leaned forward. That's about the only thing that happened that is different.
Yeah, my team also just sent a note that I'm going in and out. Am I good now, or am I?
Yeah. You sound a lot better.
Okay. How about now? Still good?
Great.
Just give me a warning if things are bad, and I'll reset some stuff.
Yeah.
Where did I lose you?
Two things. So, but still get comfortable, because we're going to be talking for a while. So like getting your comfortable position. I'll let you know if it muffled. I don't know if you're touching the desk or something like this, because every now and again I will hear like a little tapping of some sort as well too.
Well, that was me clicking my mouse to figure things out.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, we were talking about this beautiful insight of you failing, but then failing sucks miserably. And then you trailed off. But
yeah, I was just saying, like, I don't want to suggest that a comfortability with failing is equivalent to being numb to it or not having it bother you, because that's definitely not the case. Just because I've experienced a lot and I understand how to like manage it and I've done those things does not mean I embrace it wholeheartedly when it happens. I'm still very much dissatisfied with my failures.
Right. And again, this is just a great insight that comes up time and time again. But as you continue to tell your story, somebody's going to be able to relate to you as a human being and being like, if this dude can do it, I can do it. You said some really other interesting things. And I think I got one more question, and we can start evolving here a little bit into like high school. You said you were talking about sports, but this comes up every time too, which is a lot of people are readers, but particularly what you said in the fantasy realm. And whenever I hear this, it turns into this beautiful creativity conversation. So I would love to understand from your reflection there too on the impact of getting deep into that world.
Yeah, I would say that I had a very vivid and wild imagination growing up. Like I could imagine, I could play in an open field just with whatever the heck was going on in my head. I read a ton of fantasy books. A big part of my childhood was my book budget. I bought like 2 books a week for many, many years and just crushed them. Lots of like, young adult series and children's like fantasy series. Like there's like a Pendragon series. There's a bunch of like books out there that are like perfect for just young kids that love that genre. And I read pretty much every single one of them. And yeah, it really did fuel a bit of creativity, whether it was in my head or in the way I engaged with the outside world. It's something that I certainly embraced and enjoyed. I'm trying to think of the outlets that kind of manifested itself in, but it's mostly in sort of the universes that I would create with boys, with art, with whatever. I'm not an artist, but children's drawings.
Yeah,
I brought huge stick figure scenes.
Oh, dude. So that I actually went to design school. Can't draw a stick figure barely, right? But you learn that design, like graphic design at its core, is really about visual communication. So you don't have to be an artist. Like, how do you effectively get the end user to create a behavior that you want through visual communication? Like, that's actually boiling down what graphic design is. But there's 2 ways to go from what you said, which I'm really interested in. Is I've actually always heard, and I kind of believe in this too, and you hinted at it, which is when you get deep into books, particularly fantasy, you create this skill of being able to visualize these worlds. And that skill alone has a huge impact on your creative mind, I think. Any additional thoughts? Agree? Expanding on that?
Yeah, I think I probably have not considered the fact that some people don't visualize their thoughts. Right. So yeah, I guess that's cool if that's a skill. But absolutely, that's something that I do. I have a very vivid imagination, or at least I did growing up. I'll say my reading has tapered off to some nonfiction, and it's very sad now. But growing up, I had a very vivid imagination and was really just engrossed in these books. I could sit for hours and just like sort of become immersed in the stories that I was reading. It was amazing, and it still is amazing what books can do. Video games kind of create that experience as well, but like a good book, there's nothing that can compare.
Awesome, man. And this brings up the last kind of caveat to this, which is creativity, right? What we've just been hinting at is creativity, and whether like same here, right? Like I actually still do. Like, I'll give you an example of my visualization. when I read the first Hunger Games, right, and the cornucopia, like the big thing in the middle that where all the weapons and everything were and people were going to, I imagined this like Mount Everest structure. And one of the most devastating moments of my fantasy visualization life was when I went to the movies to watch it, and the cornucopia was just like this tin shed. I was like, this was totally opposite of what I had in my head. And it's just like a prime example of what we were talking about. But this skill set, I think, is a massive way to start expanding your creativity, because I think everybody goes to like, I need to be good at drawing, or I need to be good at painting, or what art is considered, right? But this is actually a great skill set that anybody can do. So my question to you is creativity in general. Reflecting back on that, what does it mean to you? Because I've had so many interesting ways of people describing creativity.
Yeah, it might. My one-liner is probably cliched. It's thinking outside of the box, right? It's being able to take a situation and turn it into whatever you want it to be. So, childhood Jonah is, we have to go tour a house because my parents were on the market, and I run through every room killing all the monsters so that it's ready for us to move in. Adult Jonah, it might be, how do we create a feature that does things in a way that's never been done before to really create a value proposition to a customer base, right? But
Right.
that ability to take what is known and add to it,
Yes.
that requires creativity. And to me, that is sort of what, creative adults do, whether it's through their art or through their products or their technology or whatever. They're adding to this basis that we all have. And that's creativity, is going from what is and making something more.
Yep. And to level that up, my thought process here is, people are already saying like creativity or creative is commoditized. It because of AI, right? And it is in the sense of an output of a video or a drawing. Like, dude, I don't know if you saw the Google I/O presentation in the new VO3.
Yeah.
It's outputting cinematic level stuff with the whole score and everything, lip syncing spot on. It's crazy, right? And people are like, well, creativity's dead. But I agree with what you just said, is it's probably one of the, we're down to like, how do you manage a smaller cohort of people? Because a lot of jobs will be lost. And how do you be creative, right? Because that's the like last thing that a human brain does. Do you agree with that sentiment? Or do you have a different take on how this topic is going to be impacted quickly? I'm saying in a year or less by AI.
Yeah, I mean, I think people who are saying creativity is commoditized are conflating certain skill sets with creativity, right?
Yes.
Like certain, like you said, you need a smaller team, right? So your film team to make a video or to make a skit or an ad might change. Your team exists, and the need to make an ad that speaks to a customer is still there. And the way you speak to a customer is through creativity, right? You don't want to put out the same ad everyone else is putting out, right? So creativity is certainly not commoditized. The tools you leverage, how you communicate, and what you're putting your creativity against, right? It could be an ad, it could be, building a birdhouse in the backyard, right? Like your creativity is something that is just meant to add to the basis that we all have. So now our basis includes VO3. Our basis includes all these new tools that make it easier for people that lack skills to apply their creativity to certain industries in certain places, right?
Yeah.
I'm not a filmmaker, but the creativity I've had this whole time, I can now apply to film. So creativity is not commoditized. That filmmaking industry is being disrupted. But creativity is just something that you layer on top, no matter what it is.
Yeah, and this is going to make a great clip, in the sense that, to follow that up, the ironic part is it's actually the opposite. These tools now expand the creative output and could create this utopia of just such a cool future of abundance of creative. Because like you said, people that have not studied the skill sets have them at their fingertip now. I think if we do this right, the future could be so freaking cool. The problem is humans are inherently flawed and there's some bad people out there. So, but I believe in the good. I'm always glass half full. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, bad people, misguided people. Like the truth is it's really tough to kind of know what is good in a lot of these cases, right? Like there's a lot that we could talk about on that thread, even within Web3, right? Like it's really tough to know in the moment with what you're doing if it's a good thing or a bad thing, and if that's objective or subjective. So what I'd say is like, yeah, there's definitely bad people, and there's a lot of people who are just doing their best and they're still going to do some really bad stuff. And it's like yeah, these tools make it really easy to make the bad even way worse, but most people won't be going into it with that thought process in their heads of like, I'm going to really mess shit up. They're not really trying to do that. Most people, some people are, but I, like you said, I'm more optimistic that even when some people do bad, it's in the pursuit of good, and it's just new tech, new tools, new things. And so there's a bit of grace that ought to be given to those people that are on the edge. Which again, some people trying to do bad will try to use that cover as well. So it's just hard.
Dude, I'm sorry, but you opened Pandora's box. I got to go down a little bit, which is good and bad. So here's my take. I would just love any insights that you can share. Are you cool talking about this topic?
Sure.
Good versus bad. So here's my thought. I went through a major depressive order, man. Second to second for almost a year. Horrific time in my life. And I think everybody is born inherently good, because I think part of a human soul is identity, and I think just inherently a human understands good versus bad, and good makes sense. It feels better, right? Where bad comes into play to me is take my situation, for instance. I always said this. If I didn't have like a good career, access to modern medicine, an insane support network, and went through what I went through, I would be quote unquote bad. God only knows what I would have done if I was alone, right? Mm-hmm. And so when you go through traumatic things like this and experiences, it gives you perspective on like, you define bad, but it's still bad, whatever people are doing, whether it's murder or, scamming people, whatever it may be. I think what I'm saying is I actually understand why people do the things that they do. Because if your back's up against the wall or you're not thinking properly, shit happens, man. And so that's my thought process on it.
I think the question then becomes, is that objectively a bad act, or is it bad in in certain contexts, and in other contexts it's, a natural response to a situation, right? Like that's the problem with, objective or subjective in simple words like good and bad is like, is someone a bad person because they look out for themselves because every scrap of food they come by is the sustenance they need to make it? Like, does that make them bad? Probably not, right? That
for sure.
That it's a weird space because like everyone's right and everyone's wrong. It just depends on who's talking.
Exactly. And another thing, like transitioning to Web3, my kind of aha moment was being a hate beast mod, right? And I'm talking to people from like the Philippines, right? Where, dude, the profit from a hate that sold average like 7 to 8 ETH, right? That is life-changing money. So when I am a mod and I'm seeing other people like trying to just like scam their way into as many whitelists as possible, I'm like, why would you ever do that? Like, share the love. And then I'm like, oh, this totally makes sense to me. But I think one relevant thing is that just constantly is in this toxic crypto Twitter. I wish we could all work together. That's my question to you. Is it because this is financially driven, we might not just ever get out of our own echo chamber? Or how do we actually change the narrative to be positive? Is it just more Web 2 people coming in that aren't part of the culture? What does that look like to you?
Yeah, this might people might disagree with me here. I don't think crypto Twitter is ever going to get bigger or change. I think crypto Twitter is a niche space that's very PvP and really fascinating. I don't think that as blockchain adoption grows and as use of cryptocurrency grows, crypto Twitter is going to grow. It's just not the case. Like crypto Twitter is its own little beast that people have fun in. It is not actually, like when we talk about TAM, when we talk about market, the market size of cryptocurrency is like 100x crypto Twitter, right? Like stablecoin bills just passed in the United States. Like how people are applying themselves to cryptocurrency and how businesses are using blockchain is significantly larger than our little corner of this social media app. And I believe a lot of people who are avid users of stablecoins and are very clued in to what blockchain brings to their businesses and to their experiences are still not going to engage on crypto Twitter because it is very PvP and very messy. It is still an amazing place that's a lot of fun, but I do not see it getting bigger. I see cryptocurrency growing, but not our little corner of the internet. That is, people are going to leave, people are going to come. It's going to be that still niche space. Again, maybe a hot take, but like the beauty of cryptocurrency is not discovered on crypto Twitter. For sure.
So I agree with you. I'm going to yes and in the sense that one of the things, though, I've actually noticed, and I say this a lot of times, creatives, content creators like myself, they have their own product market fit, right? My content in general, which is this deep, authentic human connection, crypto Twitter is not the right place for this, right? This is financially driven, like you said, a lot PvP. But I will say this, though, over the last, let's say, year, it is changing. And my brand has become more and more popular because people are so sick of getting just gutted, right? And so maybe it doesn't grow, but I do actually like the partnerships and the conversations that I'm having in the background would have never happened in 2021, right? I made a ton of money in 2021. I lost a ton of money, but it was just, hey, give me some pre-sale spots. You can come on the podcast. Now it's like, oh, you actually could impact retention and you can give us different content that I'm just sick of listening to on Twitter. So there is a sentiment changing there a little bit. Any thoughts there? Does that make sense to you?
Yeah, no, it's also, you know, when you put it that way, that my conception of crypto Twitter could be more narrow than what could reliably be considered crypto Twitter, right? And to that regard, you know, there is a general shift of focus within different groups.
Right.
So I think you're totally right. Like even with DYLI, everyone is so warm, and there's so many opportunities to build and grow and collaborate with pretty much every business out there, including competitors. In particular segment, they compete and they don't, right? They do so much more and so many different things. But in particular segment, Matt has just put together an amazing thing and a great team, and he's so open to conversations and just finding ways to collaborate, even in that same RWA niche. So you are right in that regard, that there is this sort of there is absolutely a group of people that are very focused on growing themselves, the people around them, and the space as a whole.
Yeah.
Just not the whole group.
Exactly. And I don't think, I think what we're talking about, like reading between the lines, which I don't think a lot of people talk about as well too. This could make a great article. There's niches within this niche, right? Yeah, which is crazy to think because this niche is already small, but there's multiple niches within the niche. One being builders, two being the dev world, three being the just meme coins, strictly profit-driven people that'll do anything at any means to make a buck, right? And there's probably more that I can't even think about. Fascinating conversation, man. Fascinating conversation. We're at childhood, man, and we've already gone all over the place. I want to be cognizant of the time. I have a hard stop at. You have a hard stop at all?
No.
Okay. You got a little bit of time. I think I can push till 9 o'clock. So we got about another 40 minutes. We've already talked for 40 minutes just about childhood and a little bit of Web3. So let's kind of transition into chapter 2, which we can start as kind of like high school, beginning of college, if you went to college. Before I do this though, and this is, I like this new narrative. We almost got rapidly going to get over 200 people watching. I want you all to retweet, like, comment, do all of the things, because this has been an amazing conversation already. And we've had actually tangible insight to Web3 via creativity and fantasy books. Who else does that in this space? Not many people. And for the people that listen to this on Spotify in the future, put a comment down on the podcast. You can actually comment on the podcast, and I love feedback. So with that being said, let's go on to chapter 2. Anything that you want to do about high school, college, just insights or moments that pop in your mind?
High school is awesome.
Yes, you're one of the few people that say that.
High school was where I really grew up. I went into high school 112 pounds. I only left 145, but you can imagine the skinny kind of book nerd who came into high school, right? We talked about sports for a little bit. I did pick up wrestling and lacrosse from my freshman year. So I had 4 years of being a two-sport athlete that really helped me learn about fitness, learn about teamwork, and just sort of build up just another set of skills that were very important for the rest of my life. Wrestling in particular, my coach was just a brutal guy. And I learned what it took to really kind of push through walls with him, because he did not let you stop. And I got to wear really cool singlets, and anyone out there who doesn't like singlets, back of the line, singlets are great. They're kind of silly, but athletics,
silly.
Athletics was awesome.
Great.
Why are they great? Because everything stays where it's supposed to. No, I'm just kidding. Athletics were huge for me. I also just sort of, my perspective was really opened up, even fashion wise. I have this really core memory of this woman that I had, girl, we were kids. I had a fling with in the summer, who was you need to stop wearing cargo shorts. And I was like, why? Cargo shorts are great.
They're amazing.
And listen, they're still great. I'm not saying cargo shorts are bad, but at the time, she was these are the things that you should consider doing. And so I went from like Element t-shirts and whatever to a bit more of a preppy look that also actually improved my confidence in some ways. So high school was great. It opened doors to a lot of other things. I made amazing friends. I went to a public high school, and I met all walks of life. My best friend, Justin, from growing up in high school, we took every single class together for 4 years.
That's so
cool. We took different directions after high school, but we had a blast. And I'll say that high school was where I got really strong socially, really strong physically, and I built up a lot of confidence in what I can bring and what I can. Hopefully you don't hear that truck outside.
I heard it a little bit. It's totally cool. Don't worry about it.
But yeah, high school was amazing. Every moment was great.
Do you have a question? Because this happened to me. Those really good formative years as well too. Do you still keep in touch with any of those people or no?
No, and you know what? Some of my closest buddies still do. They've got great group chats and all of that. I was in Florida, and most people, so Florida has this great program where college is just free if you stay in Florida. There's a couple of hoops you jump through, but you usually make money going to college if you live in Florida.
Surprisingly similar. It's very, very, very cheap.
Yeah, I was gonna, if I went to FSU, I think I was gonna make 10 grand over 4 years. University of Florida was similar. So a lot of people stay in Florida, and because everyone stays in Florida, they all stay close. You don't even need group text, because you just get breakfast together. I left, so I went to school in Philadelphia. So there was this sort of separation that happened.
Where'd you go?
I went to Penn.
Oh, did you? That is awesome. I went to Penn State. I'm not as smart as you, but Penn is a legit school.
Yeah, it was great. West Philly was awesome. I loved Philly. I loved college. Big fan of education, everybody. Love education.
So let's talk about that. You are an entrepreneur, but a big fan of education. But here is one of the things that's different than for you than most people that talk about education. You went to an Ivy League school. And I think there is something about education at a top tier university. So talk to me about the experience and talk to me why you say that, because that is drastically different than what most entrepreneurs say.
Oh, I know it is. You know what's worse? I got an MBA too. Yeah, that's like the scarlet letter for an entrepreneur. Like you have an MBA, like you're dead. Like you can't do anything. The MBA is interesting. That's another story for 5 minutes from now maybe. But yeah, I mean, listen, like there are different skill sets, right? I'm not a developer, right? Peter Thiel can't come through and like groom me into this mastermind dev genius in, one of his programs, right? My skill set is understanding finances, understanding operations, understanding people and managing those people. And education is a big way to learn that. Now, are you going to learn that necessarily in a textbook? Absolutely not.
Right.
But getting foundations from coursework, building relationships with people around you, working on projects, trying out small things, that is where the skills really come from. And formal institutions really help make that happen, right? Most launch pads and stuff expect you to come with the idea, right? Where do you build up your army of ideas is in places like Penn. Yeah, maybe I could do it in my little notebook on my own. But again, like me going from idea to DYLI, that was not me. That was a team. That was Alex. That was developers, right? So it also depends on who you are. The people who say like, screw school, just do your own thing, they've got an incredible skill set where they can build something out of nothing using ones and zeros.
Right.
And those people are amazing. And they're right that if they've got the right vision, they can build the thing they need without any other formal education. But for losers like me, education's great. Really good.
Yeah. And this is where a lot of it ends up. And I actually love your thought here. So I went to Penn State. The Big Ten expanded to the West Coast. It's not the Big Ten anymore. You just might as well call it the National College League. And so USC and UCLA, I live in northern San Diego, so I'm pretty close to LA. So I went to the USC game. And I was just curious. I was like, how much does it cost, like undergrad, to go to USC? Now, USC is a pretty good school, but it's not Ivy League like Penn. $100,000. $100K, right? So at what point now in your mind, because I agree with everything that you said, there's absolutely something to be said. And I still do think college and the social aspect, not necessarily, but you can find brilliant professors. And I think if you're doing more like labs or practical skill sets or applications where you're actually doing things and not just sitting in lecture halls, that can be very stimulating as well too. You've got professors that are like at the forefront of the mindset. AI, like, can't imagine how cool it would be to be at a place like Penn with the top minds around AI. Super, super huge opportunity. But the question to me, to you is, at what point is there the opportunity cost makes sense, right? Like, because I can't imagine Penn's got to be over $100,000 a year at this point, right?
I have no idea. If it is, that is just a tragedy.
Well, all right, let's say it's $100,000. Now you're talking about $400,000 for 4 years of school. At what point do you say too much is too much? Do you have a price in mind?
I mean, I think that's too much, right? Like if you told me $400,000 or get paid $5,000 or whatever to go to University of Florida, I'd go to Florida.
Right.
Because the structures are the same. And yes, there are certain professors that you can't get anywhere else. And maybe statistically, your classmates are of some level that is different than some other institution. But on the individual level, it's not the case, right? Like you've got a bunch of people who are at every tier of intellect, even at Penn, right? Like there's all sorts of reasons why people get into a certain school, and they're not all fair. And so the assumption that like it's just this like, and I'm saying that this is your assumption, but it's just this bastion of like geniuses is totally unwarranted, right? It's
For sure.
it's just a bunch of people that for one way or another ended up at that school. And again, maybe statistically there's something, but whatever. Like your day-to-day interactions, you're gonna run into the same like level of people. And professor quality, like we said, is important, but it's not the only thing that really creates value for you as a learner at an institution, right? It's just sort of applying yourself to the situation and taking advantage of all the resources given to you, which are also available at a state school or anywhere else. So it is interesting, you know, when you put it that way. Like, yeah, I mean, $400,000 for a piece of paper from Penn sounds bonkers. I can't imagine it at this stage. But also, when you're a kid, you might have a different set of priorities in your head.
Right. And again, right, like even I think UC San Diego is like $75,000 a year, but they give out the most scholarships and grants than, and you know, UC gives out more scholarships and grants than any other university in the country, right? So what are you actually paying? You're not paying $100,000. I think the point of this is, and I think people, whether you decide to pay the money to go to a big university, but if you don't, unless, like Jonah said, is an uber genius and you're Bill Gates and you can just build something in your garage, which by the way is another misconception of entrepreneurship. Everyone thinks you need to be Bill Gates or Mark Zuckerberg to be successful, which is so far from the truth. There's so many people that have made millions of dollars that you'd probably be staggered at what their IQ is. But you know, it's not about that. It's about ingenuity and being creative and the things that we're talking about. But it's also about the number one thing, and the point that I want to walk away with is you have to surround yourself with creative people, ambitious people, and find those networks of people, because it's really hard doing it by yourself. You agree with that? Anything to expand upon?
100%. I mean, my peers from Penn, those are the people I do stay in touch with the most out of anybody. The things that we do together are immense, and the relationships I built with them are really important. In fact, Alex, my co-founder, is actually the younger brother of one of my fraternity brothers. Who introduced us because he wanted me to stop spamming our group chat with like crypto talk. He's in real estate. He doesn't get it. He's like a man of the earth, you know?
Right.
So, and he's doing extremely well. So like those people, like access to the most interesting investment opportunities, just access to like good experiences and just spending time together and trying interesting projects out together. Those guys are where it all comes from. And that was built at Penn, right? Through education and sort of suffering together through, you know, the highs and lows of college. Right. But which again, for me was mostly not suffering. I really enjoyed college.
Well, it's just really refreshing to hear your take, because I hear often a lot the opposite takes. And I think your points should be heard still. Like, I think there's this whole sort of younger generation, and I get it, right? Like, I had this conversation with Logan. I can't imagine being in his position. Like, a lot of people in his generation are in their 30s, you know, still living at home because they can't afford a freaking house, right?
Sure, but the other side is crazy too. Like the TikTok, Instagram generation is brutal.
It's like brutal, right? Oh. So not only are you getting pounded emotionally, you're getting pounded financially, and a lot of times, and Logan said this himself, it was like, you know, the only way out is just got to grind your ass off and try to figure something else out, right? Because if you look at all the other traditional options, you know, I was still in that generation that like, I worked at Geico right out of college, right? Huge company, massive company. And there was still that mentality that like, dude, I landed a job at Geico. I'm just going to be here for 30 years and I'll be retiring, right? That thought is gone, just like totally gone. So what do you do? It's a fascinating conversation. Let's move on to, I'll give you a choice. You said MBA was interesting. But I also do not want to lose the insights that you can generate for us around all of these opportunities that have come up, your entrepreneurship, professional career. So, but I'm going to let you go wherever you think.
Yeah, professional career is more interesting. The MBA was a funny thing where I applied when Capital One was going to pay for it. And then I quit my job and started Nifty. And I had to make this call of, do I still go? And I just decided like, I'd rather not what if it. And so I went and I just got the MBA.
Gotcha. And serious question, how has the MBA benefited you?
Oh, no, not at all. Because I'm an entrepreneur, right? You know, should I have that piece of paper and I'm trying to climb the ranks at Capital One or do something else? I do believe it fundamentally gives you a bit of social credit to get to that next level in a career, in a broader organization. As an entrepreneur, it does not benefit me. The lessons learned in the classroom are minimally useful. The people are very interesting, right? You know, one of my classmates is running for Congress now, right? I hope she wins. She's an incredible person. That's fun. Like, again, like the structures that put you in a room with interesting people that are all pursuing this for different reasons is really cool. But yeah, I didn't learn anything new that I can apply to running a business.
No, I think that's, again, back to that social proof. So take us through some of your careers. And here I'm, you know, in the career, would love like 2 or 3 different examples or companies or, like you said, investment opportunities. And then we can get into kind of like insights gained from those opportunities. You can go chronologically, you can go whatever, you know, comes to mind.
Yeah. So I went to Penn. I was essentially pre-law. And the problem with going to Penn and being pre-law is Wharton is at Penn. And so no matter what you think you want, you usually end up as a consultant or a banker when you leave Penn. And I did just that. So I was like, all right, I'll go the consulting route. And I am just going to take the LSAT and put it in my back pocket. So I got like, I actually used my LSAT to go to business school because I was like, I'm not taking any other tests. Got a great score on my LSAT, went to Deloitte, and just fell in love with what I did at Deloitte. And I was like, I'm not going to law school. No way. So my first job out of college was at Deloitte. I did strategy consulting. What an amazing way to enter the workforce, because they kind of put you in a cohort with a bunch of young people. In some ways, you know, the way you grow is just who you know. And so the skills you built socializing in college are how you were able to grow your network at a consultant firm, right? Like, who can stay out the latest with the partner who's going through their divorce, right? If you can be at the bar last, like, that's great. I'm being a little, you know, over the top with it, but like those situations happen
right here because that resonates with me so deeply. Because I ended up running brand for Geico, right? Mm-hmm. Spent over $2 billion in advertising. And one of the main ways I got there is my CMO liked to partake and imbibe in things, right? Mm-hmm. And I could stay out. I was that dude, right? Yeah. I was like, I could hang with the big guns. And I just really want, because you reiterated it, you got to make those decisions. Are you going to be that person or not? And there's consequences to every decision. But I don't think people talk enough about this, of how much careers hinge on that fact. It is just purely social and fitting in. And it's an unfortunate fact to me, because I actually hate that aspect. But
well, I mean, it's not merit-based at all, right? It's a terrible system. But as like a young person coming out of college, there is no better way to get exposed to the workforce than to do what you know how to do, right? And so I loved every second of it at that age. If I was thrust into that now, I would be devastated, because I got to take my dog, spend time with my wife. Like, I just couldn't do it. And I plan on staying with my wife, so the whole like divorce angle doesn't make much sense, does it?
Me neither.
But it was a great way to start, like just amazing. And I remember I was gunning for an early promotion to a senior consultant, and my like senior manager, my partner, pulled me aside and he said, I'll back you for this. But the fact that you want this so early tells me that you want to be here for the next 10 years. Like you want to be a partner. And the very next day I started looking for a job. I was like, I do not want to be here for the next 10 years. So he helped me out a lot by being like, the fact that you're gunning for a promotion so quickly says this about what your goals are. And I was like, well, that's not what my goals are. So I'm applying myself in the wrong place. So that was kind of the signal for me to exit the industry. So I went to Capital One as a product manager, worked in a couple of verticals there for a few years before quitting and starting Nifty Labs. Capital One was also
real
awesome.
Quick though, that there's an insight there, I think, which is like, was it a product of your goals, your ambition? Because I think a lot of people struggle with this, right? Their gut tells them they want to just get a promotion as quick as possible, climb up the ladder, and that's the answer. I think my question to you is that pivotal moment, right, where you're having this conversation at Deloitte, what was your gut saying, or what was that insight for you to make the decision that you did?
Yeah, I think especially coming out of school, like when you are in education, high school, whatever, like you are actually taught to think in like formalized ways and structures. And a very easy structure is a hierarchy, like analyst, consultant, manager, whatever. And anyone with any conception of a structure says the top is the best. And so your gut, especially without more experience in the world, is I need to get to the top as quickly as I can to be the best. And so that was the route that I was taking. When he said that, that was when it became clear to me that, yes, hierarchies are built to maintain order in a business and an organization, but the world is not a hierarchy. And you can find success in any place at any level if it meets your personal needs, whether that's, education, growth, like just if it's money, the hierarchy is really important. But like, depending on what you want out of what you're doing, you don't necessarily need to be the boss to get what you want. And so when he told me, what you're telling me is what you want is to be the boss first, I was like, yeah, I don't need that right now.
Dude, that is the insight, man. And I knew it was there, and I'm so glad I got it out of you in your own way. Just another thing people really need to hear, which is and this is what, like, I would say, you could relate this to crypto Twitter too, right? And Web3 is everyone thinks they just want to become a millionaire, and they're doing it because they think that's the right thing to do. But what you actually said was you thought about what you really want. And people do not spend enough time understanding who they truly are and what they truly want. Any thoughts aligned, feel good about that comment, or do you have something else?
Totally. I mean, that's a problem with TikTok, right? Is you're told what you want and you get distracted, and then you end up trying to become the main character in a very PvP and negative universe, and you realize that wasn't what you were looking for, but sometimes it's too late, right? I think the only thing I layer on is what I just said. Like, the hardest part is that a lot of people will tell you what you want when it's not actually the case. And so there's like two levels to it: is figuring it out for yourself and ignoring the noise. And those are two very different challenges with very different skill sets.
100%. But it people need to understand, and people need to talk about this more. Love it, man. So let's go on to Capital One.
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing too insightful during my time there. I worked with great teams. I learned how to manage developers at Capital One and started building a network of developers, which really helped as I grew my startups. But Capital One's a phenomenal organization, a phenomenal employer. They gave me a ton of resources. I did learn a lot from the organizations I worked with. But it was kind of a stepping stone to doing my own thing, which was really catalyzed by COVID. Just another time of life that was just freaking awesome. because, which again, not a lot of people say, but
Agreed.
it's because it just gave me the flexibility to explore things because I was working from home, and I took advantage of those to really discover this new universe that is blockchain and cryptocurrency from like a picks and shovels perspective. Like I was a trader for many years, but now I finally had time to be like, well, what could I build? Like, how could I influence the space? And so that was all thanks to the extra time afforded me by going remote during the COVID years. So devastating time for many. I totally get it. And it's not a good thing, but that time gave me what I needed to break out and become an entrepreneur.
Yeah, man, I'm totally aligned because I had this, like, I always knew I hated going to an office, and then COVID and obviously my fall from grace with this crazy health situation. Thank the Lord I was healthy before COVID started, because that would have not helped.
Oh, that would have been pretty tough.
That would have been really bad. So I'm feeling great. COVID happens, and I'm like, I have nothing but time, and I got to figure this out. And that's when I found Web3, and that sounds like when you went into it. Question before, and we'll get into Web3 and kind of Nifty and everything. I think you made also a fundamental shift there too, which was, I'm an investor, but I now want to build stuff. Like, where does this building, we talked about that transition, are you making the decision? But when push came to shove and you finally were like, I'm just going to start building stuff, I'm being an entrepreneur, what pushed you over the edge? Was that always inherent there from the stuff we talked about younger? Any thoughts there, insights reflecting on that?
It's an interesting question in that I haven't really dwelled on it too much, and other people might have different perspectives looking from the outside in. But for me, it was, I had a lot of time, I was definitely understimulated at work because of that, right? And there was this moment where I was flipping JPEGs, and maybe I'd make like 10 grand on a project, but the project founders would make like $3 million. And I was like, I'm not happy with this delta. Like, there's something that I can do to shrink that gap. And my first thought was, again, picks and shovels. It's super cliched, but like, what if I could help people bring their ideas to the blockchain for a piece of that, right? And so that's why the agency got started. We were just, at first it was a side thing. We obviously didn't just quit our jobs with no proof of success. But we started building up an appreciation, a comprehension of the space, an appreciation for the players, and just building up our book of work to the point that we essentially had to quit our jobs to just manage what we were doing. But the real catalyst was, there is this blank space of people helping creatives use this new tech. This was before Manifold. This was before all these amazing self-service tools. The only options you really had was OpenSea shared storefront and like some shadowy supercoder on the internet who you don't know what they are. So we came in as this US based, and again, the whole world is great, but knowing that you can sue someone is really, really nice. So being US based is helpful. This US based agency really helped us kind of fill the gap that we saw there and got us started. I'd say a lot of my entrepreneurial career, even with DYLI, is identifying gaps that we think we can fill in a meaningful way. Less like I had a passion for agency work, because that's crazy. Anyone who tells you that is a total psychopath. But having a passion for solving problems, filling gaps, might make a little more sense.
Yeah, no, thanks for sharing that. I think my follow-up question here, though, is, because I struggle with this a lot too, right? I have family, mortgage, all of these things. I'm just so passionate about what we're doing right now. And it's, I think always the hope is what you experienced, which was side hustle got to the point where you're like, I got to do this full time, right?
Yeah.
At that moment, because of the way that you built it up, and I'm assuming you're making some solid money there, was that leap of faith less of a leap of faith because of the way that you built it, or what did that look like for you?
Yeah, honestly, when Alex and I started Nifty, I was definitely more conservative, and we were very well established when we made the shift, and there was pretty much no risk at all. The real risk came in with DYLI. We built DYLI with little to no income for 12 months. Um, so I kind of became more of a risk taker as I went deeper into entrepreneurship. But my first stepping stone was very much like, I can easily do this without taking on any risk at all. So it's a little lame, but that was
No,
my
I love that, because that is my point of view. I think, and I think the narrative majority of the time is you got to jump off a cliff and just work your ass off and hope. And I'm like, that just does not make sense to me, because I do think you can work those extra hours for a finite period of time and get to the point where it's not swan diving off a cliff into abyss and just hoping. So what are your thoughts there?
I think that's a really good call out. And it might even be, I don't know who I'm targeting when I say this, it might even be a way to kind of, pick apart the people selling online courses and the actual people who are in the arena getting dirty is that exact sentiment of like, you should never blindly charge. No business person blindly charges into anything, right? They strategize, they plan, they try to, they make sure that what they're doing makes sense. Anyone who says the best way to get started is to quit your job, lose all your money, and try something out is just selling hopium and garbage, right? There's so many ways to create structures to give you opportunities to try things with safety nets in place. If you believe that you have to have no safety nets to get something done, you're probably not thinking broadly enough about how you can start. I totally agree with you. Like, I would never encourage anyone to jump off a cliff to try something new. Like, that would be probably the worst advice you could give someone. And I don't know if like Paul Graham has an essay saying you should jump off cliffs, and I'm just calling him out, but like, I think that's dumb as hell. So I totally agree with you.
I agree, man. And I think, I think I've heard so many people, and I've had even people approach me, and they're like, you probably just had to like double down and buy the best equipment and
buying good gear.
Yeah.
That was my lacrosse career. If I just buy a better lacrosse stick, I'll be better at lacrosse. Sure.
Oh, dude, if you buy a $500 microphone and a $4,000 computer, is going to make you a better streamer. It's like, no, people, man. Like, I got here by starting to stream in 2020. That's how I got here. And that brings up kind of the next question, and then we'll get into Web3, which is, what is your thought on that? Because that is probably, if I could look back at my 200 plus interviews, the number one key to success that comes up constantly is hard work, consistent work over a long period of time. That's what I hear. What is your take on that? Or do you have a different take on, if you could pick one thing that determined increase your percentage or chance for success, what would that be?
Yeah, I think the sentiment of what you said is right. I think it's consistency of effort with the willingness to pivot, when the data suggests you should. But consistency of effort is everything, because no except for Pump Fund, which just went up in a straight line forever. No business is faced with perfect product market fit and is faced with like a up only line. There are always downtrends that you need to face and say, why am I losing market share? Why am I losing eyeballs? Like, what am I doing wrong? And making the right pivots. But pivot's a side effect of the ability to continue to deliver effort during downtimes.
Yes.
Probably the biggest point of failure is when people start to lose, they also slow down. Because they feel bad for themselves, they feel bad for the situation, and they feel that the effort isn't being rewarded, which is wrong. The effort will always be rewarded over time. The key is to maintain that effort through the down times, which a lot of people don't. And so that's really what it is that consistency of effort, perseverance, whatever you want to call it. And then the cherry on top is the ability to pivot when the data suggests it. Because if you do just consistently deliver effort on a bad idea, you will not move forward. But yeah.
And I'm sorry, I have another question. I promise we'll get to Web3 after. Actually, my hard stop did not happen, so I can go a little bit longer. But I think this is a huge and really important question. And I know this comes in many different forms of factor, but the pivot moment, right? I've struggled with this myself, right? My big pivot recently was when you sell something that I firmly believe, at least for me, and probably most people, is you have to believe in what you're providing, ultimately your value, right? And my big pivot was, as a content creator, you're always told it's about followers and impressions. But like you heard me talk about, my value is what we're doing now. My value is being a top tier documentary style content creator that pulls out information from founders that most people can't get. And that's insanely valuable, right? But how I pitch that is totally different than what I thought I should be doing. So I got to that insight by my aha moment of saying, well, if I talk about it this way, I 100% believe that I'm top tier in that. So for you, what are those pivot moments? Like, what are some of the things that you think about when you get to those insights? Is it just that no one cares? You see the number go down, or is it more complex?
Yeah, so it depends on the KPIs, right? So the first is, are you measuring the right thing? Because like you said, impressions, like, I'm not a marketing guy, unfortunately, but I can safely say that I believe impressions are a useless metric because they can be inflated. You know who else inflates them? The actual structure you're built upon, right? Like Twitter inflates your metrics, right? It's all fake. So impressions mean nothing to me as a business person. I care more about actual acquisition cost, like lifetime value of a customer, things like that. So first and foremost is, are you even as a business measuring the right thing? That might be your first pivot, is realizing that your impression count is 1 million plus a week and you have made $0. You should probably pivot what you're measuring, right? So like the pivot moment is very different for everybody. And it could be, all the time, right? Like a big thing for Nifty was moving from a sort of profit share only model to a cost basis model, depending on the economics of the projects we're supporting. Because early on, it was just like, yeah, give us a cut, we'll do whatever you need. Turns out what they need could be very different. And the amount of effort we spent with one project was very different from another, right? And we were figuring it out as we went. And we had to quickly say, like, okay, like, let's talk about the brief. Let's figure things out. We'll talk about the cost structure based on that. And so that was a big pivot for us, was like, the demand was there. We knew that we were doing the right thing. The way we were monetizing it and then providing value back was detrimental to us. We were overworking, and in some projects we were not seeing any value returned for the work put in. So there's a big pivot in like cost structure for Nifty Labs very early on, right? And so, like, again, like, what is a pivot? It's really like, there's like so many different places where that can take place.
Right.
Step one is measuring the right thing.
100%. And this is what I love about it, and this is another pivot that I think, and I can't wait to talk to you about this, which is another thing I have access to is hundreds of top tier founders. Why are we not getting on for another half hour and sharing what you just shared, which is tangible, meaningful insight? And I'm not going to be an asshole in charge, like, hey, $6,000 for Mikey G's Web3 entrepreneur course, but a couple $100, I've got people like Jonah, and we're going to get into the brass tacks about, here are the things that you need to think about in this industry. Like, again, totally different pivot on something that comes out of a podcast and access to humans like you that have an amazing mindset, right? Pivot right there. And so I love your insight on like actually what it means to you. So I appreciate that, man.
Sure.
And so let's do Web3. Let's get into it. TLDR of like how you found it. Let's get into the brass tacks of like, seems like Nifty was a really big impact on you, and then obviously what you're doing now at DYLI.
Nifty was massive for proving that we could do something on our own, building up our network in crypto Twitter and the blockchain space, meeting amazing people, and just getting a lot of experiences. Like, we are all in on DYLI. What we're building at DYLI, I truly believe, is incredible, and I think we're going to just absolutely dominate in the years to come. Dominate alongside our users and community, which is the best part. But the knowledge that we gained working at Nifty was all applied to making DYLI. Like, DYLI would never have happened without those Nifty years, because what we essentially built was 50 different products and observing how users applied themselves to them, which ones users hated, like what went well, what didn't go well, what each client was missing, what their needs were. And, you know, even outside of what we were providing, like, why weren't they filling gaps in their broader business, and how did that affect the platform they put out there that we helped build? So, like, the amount of experience that came out of Nifty is what has helped us build DYLI the way we did. So it was the Nifty years were phenomenal, and the friends we made along the way, oh my goodness. Particularly the Truth team. I love everybody from that team. They are, when we talk about creativity, they're like the most creative and impressive individuals that I've met. They're so fun, and that's all because of the experience that was Nifty. So huge years in preparing us to create and launch DYLI, which is going to be our focus for, you know, the foreseeable future now. Yeah.
All right. So here's a tangible question, and I think people think about this all the time. Like, Truth at the one point was like, you know, the whole holy grail. How do you even? Is it because you had built a product that could get you into those back rooms with the conversations, or was it the networking before? Like, I think people that are new to this space that want to build something, what is your advice to them on how to start growing?
Yeah, so it was almost two questions of like, what did we do in terms of building our relationship with Truth versus what is my advice to other people? My advice is to provide value without expectation. I'm not saying work for free and be taken advantage of, but what I'm saying is, until you're a known entity, you can't expect for someone to just let you into their inner circle, especially with cryptocurrencies. Development is very easy, and it takes a lot for an established group to let someone in on the development side. The only way to begin building up that credibility is through providing. And I'm not, again, like, that could also be open source, right? Like, I actually don't know how to pronounce it. I'm going to call him Saigar of Abstract, right?
That's how I say it.
I've been seeing what he's been doing for years now, all the way back with Azuki and ERC 721A, right? Of course, I'm sure he's been well compensated throughout, but people have come to trust him because of all of the independent work, all like ERC 721A, public good. All the work he's done with AI, open source AI models, public goods, right? Like, even a guy like him, where today he's leading the development teams for one of the more interesting, the most interesting Ethereum L2 out there.
100%.
He still spends time contributing to open source models. That is, you know, unpaid work, right? Like, that is the model you need to approach to get people to trust you. And so that would be my advice generally, is like, you want people to work with you, start putting yourself out there and not expecting too much in return at the start.
Yeah.
Don't work for free, but, you know.
So, and again, say, like, relates exactly to what I do, right? Like, my conversation is like, listen, this is about how much it costs me on my time. But if you feel like I provided value, like, my expectation would be some value in return. But it's not like, give me X money. This value can come in, maybe get me into your circle, right? Maybe help me cultivate some relationships that you think would be beneficial. And that conversation is just so much different And then again, I think builds a relationship. There's so many of these relationships are transactional, and I think that's just the wrong way to do business.
Yeah, absolutely.
Truth. So tell me about the truth and how you did that, because it was a two-part question, and I actually
yes.
in the second part.
So the truth is, so again, we started working with Truth before they were anything. We launched their first NFT ever. We were there before the start. So the question is, why were we there? Why did we talk with them for, like, why did they reach out to us and all of that? And it wasn't necessarily doing work for free, but we did have a couple of launches under our belt. Our name was out there, and we were a US based team that could literally shake the hands of the people we were talking to and show that we were real people. You know, Truth had goals of being a very serious, and is a very serious organization that can't just be farming out work to Fiverr devs on the internet that they don't know. So we were early on in this as a known entity that could have those conversations, and we had them. And so they took kind of a leap of faith with us at the beginning, and we've contributed to, the products that they've put out over the last, several years. And it's been just mutually beneficial ever since. I mean, it's been super rewarding. We just helped them airdrop the disease collection, which its origins are a little unique, but I think they're going to do some fun stuff with it on abstract chains. It's a beautiful collection too. It's really fun, but they are always putting out really creative. Yeah, because they airdrop 50% to previous members of their communities who may or may not be abstract native yet, and they're holding the rest. And so I think there's going to be some distribution mechanisms for the rest over time. But
super cool.
Yeah, great group of people.
So we'll get into DYLI next. Last thing before we get into DYLI is you shared two amazing insights there. Like, I think people will benefit from just hearing that from someone like you that has built, looking back over that nifty journey. And I know there's tons of insights and tons of things that happen. One or two things that pop in your mind as you're building that, whether it be, I needed to learn how to manage devs better, or lead people better, or understand the true KPIs of Web3. What are those?
Yeah, I mean, I think you touched on one of them. People management is crazy. I'm still not a master at it, right? It's being able, and I had in my MBA, I was given a leadership coach. I had a leadership coach for a period of time who, he asked me this question because I told him, I was like, I've got this employee that is just a disaster. Like, gets nothing done. Like, I need to let this person go. And he's like, are they bad, or are they not producing in a way that you're used to? Or are you not engaging them on their terms, right? Because you are one person, me in particular, a psychopath that does not stop working and is on all the time. The person that you hired, who may not have as much ownership in your company, is probably not a 24/7 psychopath for you. And so, kind of thinking about when you manage people, you need to understand the person and what they are trying to get out of working with you. Because especially in today's age where you can't grow old with a company, people, I mean, money's always a motivating factor if you're desperate, or if you can't go beyond the money. But people are usually looking for something out of their job, whether it's a new skill or whatever. And are you helping this person achieve that goal through their work or not? So that was really interesting for me. Still fired him, but it was a good lesson. And then the other is crisis management, especially in Web3.
Ooh, that's a good one. No one's really talked about that. Talk to me, man.
Yeah, I have so many insane stories. One time, someone gave me a wallet address.
Hold on. You just went underwater.
Hello?
All right, better.
Okay, I guess I leaned back too far.
Yeah.
I have one time a creator who was not very Web3 oriented gave me a wallet address that was not theirs for the depositing of funds. It was a wallet. It was a seed phrase used in a how-to video on the internet, and he used that seed phrase to create his wallet. So a wallet owned by millions of people. And so we needed to, again, at the time it was hard coded. We learned there's a difference between creating trust between us and the people we're working for by making it impossible for us to take things, and also giving us flexibility to fix mistakes.
Yeah.
At this time, we wanted to show that we weren't going to take things, and so the only place the money could go is that wallet. So we had this whole programmatic approach to depositing and exiting from this wallet in the, you know, in single transactions to avoid somebody else seeing this money and taking it, because this person just didn't know that what they did to create their wallet was totally flawed, right? So that happens in some way, shape, or form with almost every project. There's always a crisis of some sort. And knowing how to manage that, especially when you're not the team, you're a brought in resource, and communicate what's going on, manage expectations, and work through problems is like super massive and crazy. And so we got really good at that. And at the end of the day, if you can manage a crisis well, even if it's kind of caused by you actually build even more trust than before. Because you, again, like just what we talked about, consistency of effort. Like if the bad thing happens and all of a sudden you're nowhere to be found, you are no longer a reliable resource to anybody,
right?
Because you're only there in the good times. If you hit something bad and you are at the forefront managing the situation and getting both your team and the team you're working with through it, you're going to come out the other side like a rock star. Even if you might have caused the situation, if you get them out of it and you take accountability for that, that is so valuable that and it depends on how severe the situation we're imagining is, but that is so valuable that it often supersedes what you did in the first place to get there, because you demonstrated your ability to manage everyone out of the situation where hopefully you either minimized negative outcomes or you even turned that outcome into a positive. So those were the two major skills that we built through Nifty.
Dude, that last part hits hard, and I think that you can make mistakes but actually come out of that better. That's not a lesson that a lot of people hear too. So thank you for sharing that. The one question to follow up that is the brass tacks of that. When shit hits the fan, does this come in the form of just like being on like, are you spending more time communicating, understanding the core problem and fixing that core problem? Or is it like creative problem solving? Like, what is that? I think I'm trying to get at what is that skill set? Now, I know every crisis is different, but if you're reflecting on this, is it like figuring out the crux of the issue as fast as possible, then solving it? Or is it a communications thing? What is it there?
Yeah, so for me, it's a blend that leans heavily on communication and sort of solutioning. Right. Because my counterpart, Alex, who is the developer, is often the one trying to patch whatever this problem is. And so it's a tag team. It specific to us is more of a tag team approach where, and again, if you hire a Fiverr dev off the internet, there's only one guy there, like they can't do this, right? And so if they're trying to fix the problem, they can't tell you about the problem. So again, it's not necessarily like everyone's bad if they're not communicating, but we had this situation where we could. And so it's about being able to communicate what's happening while someone's dealing with it and issuing back sort of responses of, hey, we're heading in the right direction, or this is very bad. And while you're doing that is saying, this is what I think we can do next to get through this. So there is a bit of creativity, thinking on your feet and problem solving, but it's also just being super clear about what's going on. We were fortunate enough to have somebody else who was able to be like in the weeds, resolving whatever issue it may be, whether it's a bad wallet address or something else.
Yeah, dude. And what I actually heard there were two really interesting things, which is you had built personal relationships with the people that were actually going to be doing the work. And that is extremely impactful, because you keep on referencing Fiverr people, right? Like, what are you going to do with the Fiverr people when shit hits the fan, right? God knows, one, where they are in the world, but two, you just don't have that deeper understanding as you as a human being. But then I also heard, and I think it's particularly relevant in this space, is that you can't just have a bunch of technical people. You need people like me and you who are project managers, more business-minded focus, and really good with comms. you have to have both sides of the equation, or I think you're completely screwed. So you shared some super good insights there. Let's get to DYLI, man. At what point were you like, okay, Nifty is amazing. Now I have kind of like you said, you got to a point where you're like, risk is pretty minimum. Why were you like, this is what I want? This is why I think I should be on working with the Abstract team and starting a brand new business. Tell me about it.
Yeah, well, we started building DYLI back when Abstract was not a thing, like the frame era, right? Like pre-Abstract. We knew that we did not want to be an agency forever. Even just from a value perspective and a growth perspective, at the end of your life as an agency, you're going to sell your book for like a 1 to 2x maximum. Ooh. You are not growing anything as an agency. You're building for others, which is fine. Like that's fine.
If you want to do that, right?
Yeah. Fine. We did not want to do that. And so we knew we wanted to build something that could grow over time and become, really meaningful. And we had a couple of like caveats and rules about what that would be. The first was we wanted it to be on blockchain rails and be fundamentally better as a result of those rails. So we didn't want to be XYZ but on chain, which just is like, oh, so it's a little slower and more confusing. Like, no. It had to be by putting this experience on blockchain rails, it is better for people who have been doing that thing for decades.
Love it.
I want a collector. I want a creator. I want people to come to DYLI and say, wow, this is better than what I've been doing already. I'm not trying to convince them to do something new. I'm not trying to convince them to do something that they were doing so radically differently that there's like crazy inertia. I want to give them an experience that is fundamentally better because of the way that we've built it. And then the other thing was we wanted to fill gaps that we saw during our time in Nifty from our clients. And that's sort of the creative side of DYLI and creating storefronts and helping creators monetize in really unique ways. So those were sort of our two rules. We fell on DYLI. Took us a minute to get there. We started a small thing called No Supply before DYLI that was unscalable and a great failure, right? A good example of a failure that took place to get us to think about DYLI more specifically. And then we built DYLI for another year and launched on January 27th with Abstract.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome.
So I always ask this, kind of like the elevator pitch, 2 minutes or less, so people truly understand what you're doing with DYLI.
DYLI is a different thing for different people. I might break 2 minutes here just because of the way I'm approaching this. Cool. But DYLI is built for creators and teams and businesses to create products and monetize with physical goods more deeply and in a more rewarding way for their customer base. So you can see DYLI as a place to open up a storefront and sell merch. You can see DYLI as a place to reward your customer base and sort of recognize them in different ways. We have a whole thesis in gaming where your relationship with physical merchandise is elevated based on your ability to earn the right to claim or buy it. And gating access to products based on an achievement in Steam or placing top 3 in a tournament, that kind of stuff creates really unique ownership scenarios that are unbeatable. And what we're able to do is then link that to secondary markets inherently, where every asset is backed and authentic so that people can trade for what they're looking for. And the initial seller gets a royalty on that indefinitely, something that just doesn't exist in traditional markets like eBay. So for the creator, we have this whole value proposition around monetizing more deeply, but creating more access and value for your consumer base as well. Collector side, same deal. Collect more deeply, enjoy what you do more thoroughly, and have a larger set of features at your disposal. So whether you're collecting from Goblintown and just owning things in that regard and completing sets of toys and things like that, or you're a deep TCG player, doing that on DYLI is more rewarding and more fun than anywhere else. Particularly with TCG, we kind of built the full loop where you can go from sealed products like packs and sealed boxes to live rips on our stream. We actually, instead of shipping you the cards, we tokenize them for you to deal with them individually, list them for sale, redeem them, whatever, or submit them for grading all through our app. So you can enjoy your hobby from sealed product all the way to graded slabs from the comfort of your home without any effort at all, just clicking some buttons, right? Again, all made possible on blockchain rails, all doing the things you were already doing with your hobby and just making it easier, more seamless, and more rewarding, right?
Dude.
That's our goal. So there you go. Creators and collectors, best place to be. DYLI.
I love DYLI. Boom. We should I got so many ideas. Have you heard of Project O and Coin Games?
I have not.
Okay. I'm going to link you up. These guys are building an insane TCG game with a lot of really new, interesting elements as well, too. Brilliant guys. Kevin is the kind of game designer behind it, and OG like Sierra Computer Games, if you remember that company. But there's tons of opportunities here. Question for you, a creator like myself, have you worked with people like me? Like, because I have a small community, I have access to IP like the plague. I'm already thinking like I could make my own unique version of grind memorabilia or things to give access to my community. Have you ever gone down that route, or is it more kind of companies building merch?
Absolutely. No, it's for everybody. In terms of making you know that this existed, we are still working on like the marketing side of this, and getting the right message in the right place is not perfect yet. But we are built to make it as simple as possible for you to do anything you're imagining right now, right? So there's a create tab on DYLI. You go in there, you'll see 3 options right away. Instant, bring your own, and build with us. Bring your own is you just do whatever you want and we'll actually fulfill it on your behalf, kind of like an Amazon style situation. Build with us is you've got crazy ideas and you need help getting it done. And we'll go to our partner network to get things created. We've created TCGs, we've created toys, all sorts of weird stuff through the build with us. And the design and launch instantly is just a built-in print-on-demand solution where you can actually design, sample, and list for sale without ever even engaging with the DYLI team ever again. It's all self-service. All of that is available all the time. We just need to message it to creators like you to check out and experiment with. Yeah. But we have amazing teams that are ordering samples and confirming for themselves if they like the way things are coming out before launching their own storefronts.
Dude, I love it. Oh man, there's so much for us to talk about in the future. I'm super excited about. I knew I was excited before when we had our intro call, but so much has evolved since then.
A long time ago, yeah.
So much opportunity, man. So let's do this. I actually do have a hard stop now because, dude, we've been talking for an hour and 42 minutes. It has been beautiful. It's felt like 15 minutes because it's been so fascinating to hear your point of view. Let's talk about the next 6 to 12 months. I ask one final question that I ask every guest. Super softball. Don't be nervous. Give you my final thoughts and we'll call it a day. So what does the next 6 to 12 months look like?
Growing and scaling. We have had an amazing start. We have the most incredible community that has rallied around us early, in part thanks to Abstract and also just the fact that our tools are wonderful, but the Abstract community has been incredible. We are ripping, like this week it was nearly 300 packs, right? Our live rips are too big. We are running out of time for them. We need to grow in every direction. So the next 6 to 12 months are meeting demand, scaling up and continuing to build out features that our community wants. What's amazing about being a startup is when someone hits us in the DM saying XYZ would be great, we just build XYZ and then they use it, right? And so the next 6 to 12 months is just continuing on the journey that we've done, and growing the business, reacting to the community, and making this an undeniable product. Where if you're into a TCG, if you are a indie game studio that's trying to monetize in a new way, we are the first place you should look and the best place to get the job done. So that's sort of where we're going.
Dude, so and what I heard really is, and I love what we do here, right? Is because we talked about the impact of creativity and fantasy. Like you've actually produced a creator product utopia that is Fantasyland. Anything is literally possible. And it comes from that deeply ingrained creativity and solving problems, and you've been through it in Web3. And the last thing that you said that I love is, if we hear a new idea that we think's good, we will build it. And that's very rare for a company, right? They're so like, this is our product market fit, this is the problem we're trying to solve, and this is what we're going to spend all of our time on. But you're actually doing that in real time based on your platform, which is a creative platform. I love it, man. So cool. So cool.
Thanks.
All right, brother. Last question. You just went through the Mikey G and Web3 podcast experience. You've been in thousands of spaces. You've probably been on other podcasts. Love to hear how your experience went today compared to the other things that you've been on.
No, I mean, I think this is fantastic because you talk about, or I talk about things that you just don't, right? Starting it from the beginning is really cool, right? It just it gives you a shot to even reflect on some of the stuff that you might not have realized was as formative or meaningful as it was. Like I said when we started, like I even thought about the fact that I took fencing classes for a few months since I took fencing classes. Like, what an outrageous situation that it's like, that is interesting that my parents kind of thrust me into these weird situations. Like, I never thought about it that way. So I do think it is a really unique approach to kind of sussing out underlying intent and reasons for why a person is who they are and what they've done to date.
Thanks, man. That's exactly what I'm going for. The fact that you gave that feedback and that's what you felt, I think I've accomplished my goal today, and it means the world to me.
There you go.
Thanks, dude. My final comments here are, I think it's simple. I think creativity was at the crux of everything that you did. And I really do love the insights of the opposites of what you said. School was important because of the access that you got to the amount of different people. The insights, you probably had like 25 insights today that are going to make really, really great shorts in the future. It'll be great content for you too, by the way. But I know that you planted a seed in somebody's head today. And we did what the ultimate goal is you sparked a fire in somebody's head. Not in mine. Well, it happened today because people were already commenting how thoroughly they enjoyed this conversation. But two, you're going to change somebody's life in the future. And you did that by just sharing your simple human story. And I also do think what I felt, which is really cool, and you didn't even intentionally do this, but there's a sense of calm and just kindness about you, man. Like I feel it. Like as you're talking, like I just felt this is a guy that I want to become friends with. And we already started this journey. We just started it with an hour and 45-minute deep conversation. Like think about how deep we got and compared to other people that you probably interface with a lot of times on a daily basis. But we've had 2 conversations so far, and I know a lot about you, and I want to continue to get to know you, and I want to continue to help you out because of the way that you made me feel during this conversation. And those are intangible things that I always look for in people that I'm trying to work with and build relationships with. And you're one of those people. So just appreciate the time, the pure openness and the insight that you gave, and so much love, man. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. This has been awesome. I think what you're doing is great. I'm really glad I could be part of it.
Yes. And with that being said, people, I gotta go because I actually have a day job too. And I'm balancing a lot of things going on, just like Jonah. We freaking love you all. Mikey G and Jonah.